live, Rajan. Just 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this fireside chat with none other than the founder and CEO of YourStory, Shradha Sharma. Shradha, this is a chat that we're going to have to capture your dreams and aspirations for India. And of course, while we're going to do that, we're going to capture your dreams and aspirations for yourself, for your company, for the large number of entrepreneurs who rely on you to project themselves very well. So many, many different aspects. But just in terms of context, India 75 is probably one of CII's, most visible, one of its longest sustaining initiatives, which commenced back in 2007 and 8, about building a vision for what India can be in 2022. Worked across 2 strong governments, but Prime Minister Modi, when he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat in 2008, ended a conversation that I had and we had had with C.K. Prahlad at that time. And he said, Delhi aayenge to karenge. And 2014, we had vision elements that came up for the new India of 2022. And I think a lot of progress has happened and changed in India over this entire period. And I think what we are now building towards is what we call the Amrit Kal, building for what India can be in the next 25 years. It's the golden period of India, so to say. But while there are a lot of golden, areas for us to talk and discuss, there will also be a lot of challenges. There will also be some, quick wins. And I think the idea is to have a chat and, take it from there, as we move along. I know normally it's the other way around. You are the one who's throwing questions out at people, but today we thought we'll change roles. But I've always enjoyed and loved your positivity, your spirit of never giving up, and I think we're going to see some of those elements, come out in today's conversation as well. So with that, Shradha, let's get started. I mean, I'm not, we'll keep it conversational, as I said. Feel free to interject and to put that. But as a person making an opening statement, right? I mean, we're talking of Gen Next, we're talking of youth of India. What is your message to the young people of India?
Rajan, can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, first and foremost, I have to tell you that I have to go and record and say this, that it's very inspiring talking to you, because Gen Next, Gen Z, Gen Millennium, Gen whatever, I think for me, people like you, and especially, chairing in this industry body and the young body that you are chairing in CII is reflective of the change, is reflective of the positivity, and it's reflective of what the future will hold. So yeah, it is an honor to be talking to you and getting for the first time question on this. What I would like to say to youth and to everyone, and I'd say that to myself also every day, is that we're living in an India where anything and everything is possible, and possible towards bringing a change to your life, to lives around you, and to the country. So it is an India of the bestest times. Like when we were coming out of college, at least I remember in my college, people were thinking, oh, let's go to US, let's go here and there. I would say that today the world and everyone is looking at India, and not as, Jaka, we have to do some developmental work. India is the land of opportunity. And I feel very privileged, honored to be in India. I'd love to take holidays across the world, but I'd love to be in India because it gives you everything. India is what you make it to be. India is your belief. India is your hope. India is your identity. India is your madness. India is your coolness, and India is diversity. And to me, I would say to Gen Next and to everyone, enjoy and cherish the privilege of being born in this country and being part of this country.
No, I think it's such an inspiring statement that you said. India is to each one, something that will mean something to them as their journey goes along. And we think about this really early in life, right? And what you rightly said, we've also been working a lot with the Gen Zs, all our new age media, sports and all of that. And I think the Gen Next in India is definitely one which is, I think has evolved, definitely from where we were, maybe another generation earlier, with very different skill sets to be able to do so much more, for themselves. But, your journey, Shradha, itself has been such an inspiring one, right? And I think it's a great example because you started out, complimenting me. So I'm returning the compliment with the extra vigor back to you. I think what you have achieved as a woman coming from, but I mean, your journey itself is so inspiring. You want to share a little bit about that, for a change? We are asking you about your journey.
Yeah, thanks, Rajan. And I think, I would love to call out my journey because today only I was talking to someone that in my journey is the representation of India and the possibility that everyone can define their own journeys in this country. I come from Bihar, I come from Patna, and I grew up in a time when the political environment was very interesting. And most of the Hindi movies were made on the era where I grew up. It was very unsafe, very difficult for women. And of course, social media was not as big, but there was still news every day about, women being picked up, things. It was the dark period. And then that is when I grew up in Patna and in Bihar, and I went to a good school with the hope, with the ambition that ek din hoga. Matlab, खुद जो भी सपने हैं वो सच होंगे, and I can define my own destiny, which I did, and it also I did it because of the challenges. And this is also something I want to call out, that some of the amazing challenges, pain, sufferings that come in life also makes you very, very empowered to make a change. Like you become a very beautiful person. And I think that I lived in India with lot of pain and lot of challenges, as in at that time, went to Delhi, studied in Stephens, got into media, made things happen for myself. And then that happened because I grew up and then lived in an era where there were possibilities to define not my gender, not my state. Of course, as Biharis, you were very ridiculed in Delhi and everywhere. Not my background, nothing defined what I did, what I performed, defined the trajectory of where I am today. And then that's possible for everyone, because I don't want to go into the detail. You'll have a lot of conversations you will find, and a lot of things I've written about and people have written about my journey. But I could just say that it's a very quintessential, painful journey that I've had, and a lot of tragedies in life. But I'm so happy for the opportunities that I got all across, and I made use of every opportunity, and I didn't sleep over the opportunities, and I was not the victim. Rajan, what I like is that I've not been the victim of my story. I always say I'm the heroine of my story, and that choice, whether you're going to be the victim in your life of what the world does to you, or whether you're going to stand up or be the heroine or be the hero of your life story, is only up to you. And that's my story. And that's why I started your story, because I just thought that everyone should get, that inner meaning, validation, and an opportunity to share their story, because everyone has a beautiful story. It's just that you have to go dig, figure it out. And I started your story in 2008 as a blog in Mumbai, and now it's 2022. So it's like 14 years and 120,000 stories told, 12 million people we reach. We have 4 million subscribers. So yeah, it's been a phenomenal and interesting journey. And that could only be possible because I'm living in an India which gave me the opportunity to not be defined by all the boundaries that came, but by the boundaries that I could jump. And I got the opportunities to jump every possible boundaries.
Wow. I think, jumping and listening to stories and being part of other stories as they shape up is such an exciting proposition. That probably keeps your energy high. And I think that's really what, one wants to see the Gen Z. If India really has to achieve its true position, right, in the world, which is a position of global leadership, it's a youth, right? It's a young people, the next generation of business builders who are going to do that, right? And I think, Shradha, as you talk to so many of them, and you discuss stuff with them, what's the common thread that probably binds them together? Because there's so many positive stories. You'll hear the journeys. Have you come across what is that common thread, or a few common threads that tie together large part of the positive stories that come out?
Rajan, that's a wonderful question. And I want to call this out in like, and I think this is the main theme of India of today, what ties a lot of people across the country that one has spoken to and young people is that today, and I could say since the last few years, today people are not apologetic about what we lack. Today there is a pride in being Indian, and I think that I would also give credit to the change in the government, the change that we are seeing. Because earlier, you'll go and then the whole narrative, if you remember, was, oh, what's happening, how, when will we build the Google and Facebook from India? But today you have a Zomato from India, today you have a Swiggy of India, today you have an Ola of India, and the narrative of XYZ of US or this and that, today there's a huge pride in the builders, in the young people, that we are building ABC of India, not ABC of X and Y of whatever in the world. And to me, that's a very significant change when you start believing that you have, this thing in Hindi, दूसरों की जय से पहले खुद को जय करें, and वो चीज दिखती है young people में, and that is happening at ground level. And to me, that is what is bringing all the change.
No, I think, if you look at any point in time, right, we will always find something that unites, Indians. So, and also the India 75 journey is interesting because we've always looked at it in that light, Shradha. So if you saw, at the time of freedom, it was freedom that united, people in India to come and, accomplish a massive task, right? It's not, it was a massive task, and, people had to give up their lives to make freedom.
Yeah.
Then again, I'm going back to India at 60 when the India 75 movement was starting. And we did the same thing. We talked to hundreds of thousands of people, across different strata and tried to see what connected Indians, right? The need for a better livelihood for themselves and the next generation, right? Connected people from all walks of life, right? Even the poorest of the poor wanted that, and unfortunately, even the richest of the richest wanted still a better livelihood.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it was something that was connecting, and uniting Indians. And I think what you have pointed out today, we are in 2022, stepping ahead. I think it's the self-confidence of people in India today, especially the youth. The Atmanirbharta feeling that we have today as a country is probably uniting us, and strengthening one another. Right? As I said, like what you rightly said, the positive stories, rub off onto one another. Right? I mean, a few things, that's how a movement gets built. And you probably are playing a very key role in building that movement, right? People come see your stories, hear you, and get inspired and do more, and that follows, right? So what can we do to kind of accelerate this? I mean, I know 25 years is far off, but is there something we can do in 3 years, 5 years, as a country, as multiple stakeholders, who have a role to play in nation building? Is there something we can do collectively?
Rajan, I think we're doing a lot, but I'm taking a leaf from what I do. I think we need more frameworks of new everyday heroes, because whom do we look up to? Whom do we admire? And somewhere there has to be a lot more reference points. And I would say, especially in the context of women also in our country, right? Like for young women, young girls, we need a lot many everyday heroes, and we have it in our country, but somewhere that celebration, like for example, I would say when all these national awards are given, I think a lot of those awards should also be given from the startup world or from this young new age world. Who are because we've always as a country looked up to cricketers, we have looked up to Bollywood and film stars, and we have also looked up to the spiritual gurus. I think somewhere we need to create a framework across the country where we start looking at young entrepreneurs and builders and creators, and they get recognized more and more across the country. And the second thing is also the national, like you were in Pune, I'm in Bangalore, references in your localities, in your cities. I think we need to pump that up. And whom we celebrate will give reference points to young people who go to school and college, just to say, oh, this is possible. Oh, this is someone to look up to. Because I feel that we always grew up, at least I'm giving my reference, that we always grew up with those limited set of people. And especially if you look at from a women's leader standpoint, also, they're very, very few still. We need to as a country, as leaders, as individuals, create more frameworks, more people, more reference point for young people to look up to.
Yeah, no, and I think again, young people from all walks of life, even the elderly need to be taken along. So I think inclusive development, I think it's such a key word, right, for India, and I think it remains and continues to be, particularly even when it comes to a gender perspective, right? What you said,
Yeah.
50% of our country, nearly 50% is still women, right? And a very productive part of the country, and I think it's very, very important for us to see how that can, move along. But how can digital media, something that you're deeply involved in, help develop a roadmap towards, if we say, an inclusively developed India by 2047? What role can digital media play?
I feel that they have to, again, I'm going back to, I feel that we still, if you look at digital, and if you look at, and I'm giving the references of all the social platforms because they are by far having maximum number of users, still the percentage of women on all these platforms is very, very less. How can we get more young girls, and especially from places where I come from, Bihar, UP, this belt, to come, because still the access when it comes to digital is in the hands of men. And I think to get an inclusive growth, we need of course, now we have the data usage and everything happening and at a low cost. So how do we get women access to digital? I think that will really change the playing field for all of us and really build inclusivity. Because if you look at any number when it comes to the digital consumption happening by young girls, by women, it's very, very minuscule as of today also.
So how do we make it happen? If you look at the Digital India mission, right, it will say we want to create digital infrastructure as a core for every citizen, right? Governance and services on demand and empowerment of every citizen, right? So I think the ambition, the wish is all there, right? But it still doesn't happen in that manner, right? So where does the fault really lie with the male in society, or what can one do, right? What do you?
So Rajan, I said,
be open. Yeah, I would love to hear something, that you.
Again, it's a very simple, very, very simple, nothing big we have to do. As I said, that if you are growing up in a household in North Bihar, where, the world is very, very different still, and in Eastern UP or wherever, I would say that if you create more reference and role model, right? Like today, for example, with due credit, Sheryl Sandberg, Lean In, everyone saw her as the icon of women's movement, but then someone in Eastern UP is not going to relate to her. Right? Someone is going to relate if you create more frameworks and stories in my Murshidabad. Who are the interesting women who've done something interesting? If we can amplify those local stories in local languages and bring more frameworks, then हर घर में ये होने लगेगा कि अच्छा, let's get, क्योंकि digital पे आने से आपको वैलिडेशन मिलता है, आप सेलिब्रिटी बनते हो, आप हीरोइन बनते हो, तो लेट्स मेक दैट हैपन. I think that is what we need to do, because if you see still today the digital proliferation, be it through all these platforms, TikToks and the equivalents and everything, it's more of entertainment, and entertainment is going, voyeurism and titillation is going, but we also need to get inspiration to be going to, and as I said, role models and frameworks to be going to small towns. And I think that will really make the difference at ground level.
No, definitely. I think that, and a lot of those stories you will only tell. In addition,
we will tell together. We'll tell together. Yes.
As I said, we also deeply engaged with that generation, and you're right. There is no apology in the Gen Zs and the Gen Next, which is there. I think it's the baggage from the earlier generations that is really needs to get kind of removed. And a time like a pandemic has definitely set back some of the agendas, especially when you read stories about more women or more child marriages in women have happened because there was no school in rural India. I think all these mindsets need to be definitely worked at, and probably the India at 100 that we are talking, we will not have discussions like this, as issues in our country, maybe during this journey. But I think even India 100 is too far for us to wait to see that change happen. But when you see all these young people using digital, what you rightly said, these stars emerging and all of that. How, you talk one angle was entertainment, right? But really, how are they, using technology, to make a lot of this change happen? Or what can we also do, with technology to make some of these changes happen at a faster pace? Do you have any thoughts, any ideas, any thinking? Because when we talk of, the developed India, right, the three pillars, right? Economic strength, technological vitality, and I think a combination of these two at the right stage and scale will give us moral leadership, will bring better governance, right? Your thoughts on how we can really use technology more effectively to make some of that?
Rajan, you had only spoken, if you remember, we had discussed today, as of today, the advertising spend in India is 35,000 crores and it is going at, I don't know at what number, CAGR, I think it's 12, 20. We are like the fastest growing market when it comes to this kind. So if you have 35,000 crores, traditionally, it has gone to Facebook, Google's and traditional media. I think the change which is happening, that I can be sitting in Patna or Samastipur, mere phone se, I can be a creator. I can be an influencer. And that spend, which today what we have to get more and more brands and advertisers to do, is that give the money directly to someone sitting in I was so encouraged to see, and depressed little bit, but encouraged to see a young girl in Dharavi in Mumbai being a creator, dancing and all that. And then she was able to transform her family's life because she was getting so many views and she got advertisers. I think, to me, at least from a media, the world I'm living in, that to me can be a huge opportunity, because traditionally we all grew up with print and TV spend, a certain way of spending, to certain film stars and to certain cricketers. Today, distribution, going to local, and brands going to local and empowering them with the spend. I think that's the biggest change. That to me is a micro change, because one creator getting 10,000 rupees is good enough for the family also to get empowered and encourage them to, have more digital adoption, to have more money, to have more spending power.
And through a good, strong, solid UPI-led framework, a fintech framework in the country, that money hits your bank also right away. It's not that you have to chase people on how will you collect it and how will you distribute it. And I think the world, with the way things are moving into Web3, is going to actually, get value to also move around the internet. I think the methodologies of getting livelihoods, right, into people is going to be many, very, very different. And I think in that lies the opportunity for what you rightly said, for women and young girls to actually come in and derive that opportunity or play an equal role, if not a larger role, in making some of that happen. But I think that is definitely a very exciting part of India that is getting unleashed. Especially given that we have such a large population of young people, right? And I think the young taking responsibility for the old is going to be again a theme that has been historically there in India. But do you see something like that happening as we move forward, or what's your general thing on fabric in society? You think how are we carrying forward some of the deeper values that we have had as India? While we say India at 75 and India at 100, India is thousands of years cultural country, right? So how do you see that transitioning from one generation?
So Rajan, first I have to call this out. I don't know if you remember when we had met at once, and I asked you about your background and this, you talked to me about your father, your grandfather. And to me, that was a measure of you as an individual, as a person, as a professional, because the feelings and the emotions and the caring that you had and then you are doing, to me, that is not, I think that you and I and all of us listening, whoever will listen will agree, that I think will change if we change. If this fabric is not going to change, what is going to change, I hope, is, and again calling it out, is some of the fluff has to go, right? Like the drama that we saw, which TV soap operas, and that's why I love the OTT word, because soap operas perpetuated a lot of misogyny, a lot of stereotypes, right? Which actually, if you go to families, inside families, it's maybe not very true, but and that I hope will go in a more transparent India, more meritocracy driven India that will go back to families. But I think definitely young people are going to be far more caring, and they would be tools and uh, avenues to care more. There are so many startups coming up. There's this startup, I forget the name, where most of the kids are based in US and they're buying this package to take care of their parents in India, right? So I think that will not change.
And do you see young people doing a lot more to solve social problems for the country? It was the social entrepreneurship wave, which is there, where, an entrepreneur will get so many more to get them to get a livelihood, right? But also create impact and change on the ground through social entrepreneurship. Do you
Absolutely.
see the growth in that? Is there a change, because you've talked to so many new entrepreneurs? Give us a sense of what they're thinking on that.
Rajan, this is again a very pertinent point. I'm seeing a lot of youngsters across the country who are thinking about developmental issues, climate change, gender roles, transgender community. So many interesting startups are coming up in this area. There is far more awareness. And young people, I love the future. I love young people because they question you today. I'm sure most people would agree with me. When you have young workforce, they also ask you. They asked you today, youngsters are not ashamed or apologetic in terms of asking that, what are you doing for equal gender rights? What are you doing to promote women leaders? What are you doing for climate? What are you doing to contribute for pandemic? And I think we are today coming and living in an India which is far more evolved, young people far more aware, far more evolved. And I'm seeing the age go down. Today, even school kids are asking so many questions. And if you ask, we did this, we were thinking of doing Kid Story at some point, launching Kid Story, where you give voice to kids. The aspiration they have, they all want to be the change maker. And to meet that, when we grew up, it was doctors, engineers, or something. But today, everyone wants to be a change maker. Of course, they also want to be influencers. And to me, that's hopeful, because people are thinking about sustainability and all these questions, which we didn't. We were thinking about making money, getting a job, getting some security. So yeah, that's definitely a change in India.
Tell me about it. My two daughters, 16 and 19, the way they attack me on so many issues, and they actually very articulate to say that, what kind of a world are you leaving behind for us, right? What kind of an India are we going to inherit, right? So we want to go there. We want to be able to, change that and make things happen. But in terms of issues, Shradha, which are the top of the mind issues that you see, right? Because in India, we have so many prioritization, issues, but where do you see largest number of entrepreneurs in this sector coming out to solve problems, and where can we accelerate, right? As a country, if we had to directionally look at more entrepreneurship, more stories, more innovation coming out, in the social sectors, which ones do you think, are more ripe?
I feel, Rajan, we are not doing enough, but we have to do enough and hopefully have a climate fund, because as today, pandemic has shown us more clearly that we are all part of the world. So the world can't live amazingly. Humans can't live amazingly unless we countries with the kind of population we have gets very actively into climate change and then sustainability around that, be it water, be it afforestation. We have to look at it very, and be it clean energy. So I see there's a huge opportunity, and I want to call this out, that government has also in the last few years taken a lot of measures to promote to promote green technologies, but we need to do more in that direction, because the humanity hinges now more than ever. We can't afford pandemics again and again. So we will have to invest in climate and anything to do with climate and sustainability. One second, I would say that again, from a future standpoint, I still feel there's so much of inequality when it comes to health. And again, I was speaking to someone in the government, and they have come up with a lot of schemes and policies. But I just think that we still need to solve for 1.4 billion people now when it comes to health, because affordability, the divide has grown. The affordability for specialized health care is with very few. And last, I was speaking to some doctors in oncology, doing cancer treatment for poor is still not, there's so many things. I'm just giving this as an example because it costs a certain number, and somewhere when public surgeries are done, like, in the government hospitals, it's done, it's still not done with that kind of care. So the cancers recur. So those are things that we still at ground level need to solve. And last but not the least, I would say, I'm a firm believer that education should be accessible to all, and the cost of learning should not keep on increasing. And it is again, there is a huge divide growing. So how do we get good education accessible? Because see, people like me, I hear Rajan having this conversation with you, with the kind of background I come from, is just because of my education. How do we create more of people like me? And that will only get created if there is education is accessible. Yeah. So
one is creating more of you, and second is to make you last forever, right? So AI is making that happen, right? So if you see new technologies that are driving the future of the world, you will continue to live on maybe 200 years, 300 years, while they will be great for the world. But we are going to have to deal with other challenges, and therefore probably make homes on Mars and other places. The future is exciting, right? And we have visionary leaders around the world, who are making that happen. And they all come from this youth mindset of challenging the status quo, not accepting, what is there today, as enough, right? Wanting
yes.
to, the spirit, what you, specifically mentioned. And I think that's what's going to probably drive us in a fast, kind of a bullet express on our way to India at 100. But, while we are going to do that, we are going to face some bumps and challenges, and again, a journey of 25 years, which is multi-stakeholder in a democratic country like India, with non-negotiables like what you rightly said, affordability, skill, social equity, we're going to have to transition that, right? So if you were in a position to influence that, right, what would you do over the next 100 days? What would Shradha Sharma's 100-day plan look like?
Make education for certain income groups free, and especially for girl child. Make it free across the country. I would do that. I will make sure that education and girls get to schools. And how do we make? If we reduce the cost, if we make it accessible, if we create the environment. So I would do that. I'll just focus on that, because I believe that if you empower a girl child, if you create a strong girl at home, you create a strong family, and you create a strong society, and you create a strong country. So I'll just focus and do that, because then the girls will take care of everything else.
Well, a girl is also the creator of man, right? There would be no man.
Yes.
Woman did not create it. So there is no question. The word creator can be used in more ways than one. And in a country like India, somewhere we do pray, whether it's for wealth, whether it's for power, whether it's for knowledge. It's the Durga, Lakshmi, Saraswati.
Absolutely.
It is there in India. Somehow, somewhere we don't recognize that, probably every day. So I think someone like you coming up and bringing that to the fore.
No, but Rajan, I also have to call out, and I want to, because I don't think so we do a good enough job to call out people like you, men like you, because the conversation is not binary. Because sometimes it becomes, I think people like you create equal in your conduct and all that. And we hope more leaders and everyone watching, because the change will only come when every one starts conducting. And I have to call out people who conduct themselves like it's an equal, create an equal playground, and you do.
No, thank you for your kind words. But, I genuinely believe that, the power of the woman is going to shape the future of India, actually the future of the world. And I genuinely believe it. And actually, I jokingly tell everyone, I'm born on 8th of March, right? And I say International Women's Day after I was born, maybe for some reason. Not that it was International Women's Day, I was born on it. So no, but I believe in the power of the woman and her ability to not only shape, all of us have been shaped by the mother, the woman, and we always talk the home is, so it shapes society, right? Values, culture, and we've had a rich tradition in India. Like today, the world is benefiting from what India has created. I mean, you see wellness, you see mindfulness, you see yoga, right? People are using Indian techniques, Ayurveda, to change and transform the way they live, right? And we as a country, I think, somewhere miss out on recognizing our own true power, right? And I think, these stories also, maybe, Shradha, are something that you should, tell. So my request to you is going to be that, after this, the India at 100 stories, right, from successful entrepreneurs, if you can, capture them, and more than, capture their thoughts, is actually get them to commit to shape and build that. I think that's important, right? Because all of us, I think that's the one role you, we, CII, and all stakeholders can play together, is to get people to say, count me in, right? I'm going to make this happen, right? So really moving from, the success story so far, I like to say success to significance, and kind of inspire them that you can lead a significant life by really making sure that you're contributing, by investing in shaping that future. So I think that could be a very exciting direction, even for your story.
Done.
So that
Done.
more stories for you, as we move forward. With you, the problem is we can keep chatting, but I've got a few questions that some of the people who are here, and we also, the group here is invested in the future. But more than that, as I said, this is going to really capture the imaginations of all people in India and the diaspora globally. But one of the questions that is there for you is, currently startups are majorly focused on transforming services of different types. However, their role in manufacturing, innovation, patents in India particularly is nascent. How do we enable that for them?
That's a $1 billion question. We have to ask people like Rajan Navani. Let me question back. I feel it would happen. The investments, if you see in the last 10 years, last 2 years, last 4 years, have gone more on digital, because the returns also for people putting that kind of capital is faster. Manufacturing requires a lot more investment and a lot more, a longer gestation period. And that kind of investment has to come from public and private partnerships, and creating that kind of capital, because VC money and all these, if you see, they have a 5-year, 8-year, 10-year max life cycle, and manufacturing takes a longer time. It's a long-term play. So we will have to create that kind of enduring capital, and then government would have to invest, private public partnership to invest in innovation coming in manufacturing sector. And that, I think, we will start seeing hopefully now, because the building blocks of infrastructure, digital also has happened. So to get manufacturing to be more effective, as Rajan was also saying, a lot of technology will come in play. And then when technology comes, then hopefully we will get capital to come in play. Yeah, but it's not there right now.
No, and since you touched upon capital, I think you get a good sense. Is there a lot of domestic capital coming into startups?
Absolutely. Yeah, Gopal Srinivasan, he's an active proponent.
Many like him and others are actually building these, strong ecosystems where Indian family offices and others are able to now invest better into Indian startups, right? I think that is also going to fuel, some of the causes that probably will matter to India in the long term, and maybe some of that capital could get more patient, as what you rightly said, to see outcomes in manufacturing that could probably take, a little longer. But I see that coming, and actually even manufacturing is getting so disrupted today, with 3D printing and so many other changes. IoT. And digital twins, and so many things that are happening on the shop floor. That's going to change. So I think huge opportunity for innovation. Another question, again, which involves youth is how do you envision the youth participating, in volunteering for the country? I mean, and how do we enable them, not in metro cities, but in tier 2, tier 3 cities? Are people, ready to volunteer without getting something back?
Yes. I feel if the purpose is exciting enough, if the purpose talks to them, then youth are volunteering and doing a lot of interesting things. In fact, in Bangalore, just to give an example, there is this pothole Raja. There's these bunch of guys who go and fill potholes, so they don't depend on the government. Because all of us, when we hit a pothole, then we crib and sulk and put it on social media, but nothing happens. Next day, also the same pothole is there. So these youngsters, they said that, okay, we're going to make a change, and we'll go at night and change and fill the potholes. And volunteers come, and young volunteers come in different parts of the city to do that. And I feel it's just about how clearly, if you call for your purpose to get people to be involved, then they will, especially from small towns and cities. There's someone who just called me and said that, listen, for free, I will help you build your Wikipedia page because the last one is not fully done. And I said, listen, are you going to charge money? He said, no, I just want to learn and talk and interact. So there are lots of opportunities. Just call out what you want to do and what you want to achieve, and you will get people to join.
Yeah, no, I think huge merit in being able to create the opportunities and the passionate causes for people to come and volunteer. I think the other question that has also come up to you is like, what is your aspiration for the startup ecosystem in India in 2047, and the two enablers needed to make that happen?
We should have 1,000 unicorns. We should have 1 million startups in the country. And these startups should not be situated in Bengaluru, Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Pune. They should be coming from small towns. They should be coming from a Samastipur, Murshidabad, Bareilly, Najafgarh, all these places. What is required? We all have to take responsibility. Whoever achieves a certain number, a certain scale, has to say that, listen, I am going to go and invest, or I am going to go and create, or I am going to just do as simple as take a trip once a year in this small town and this city or in this place and go and have a conversation. I think we can't rely for everything on the government. I think it's very unfair because India is 1.4 billion people. We have so many challenges, so many things to do. Now people who have arrived or have achieved a certain success, like Rajan was saying, for significance, we will have to create a framework where people who have achieved a certain scale in the startup, and today we have a lot of phenomenal startup story scale success, they will have to go and participate in that growth story. And that's my hope, and that's my vision. And I'm committed to enable to do that, for it to happen.
And more women startup founders than others. Just adding
Absolutely.
to your, which you missed out. but I think that's such again an important and powerful to do it. And actually, there's a question that's a little damp now, but we'll take it because we'll end with a positive note. Is how do we address the issue of the mass layoff that startups are starting to do right now? Is that real? What do you think? You think it's you must have seen these cycles before also, right?
Yeah. इसे हिंदी में कहते हैं विधि का विधान. जब पैसे इतने जल्दी आते हैं और इतने ज्यादा आते हैं, तो they should. I've always seen life and startups and anything is a very great leveler. Anything that comes very fast also has tendencies of going very fast. And this has happened. This is not the first time I'm seeing it. This is the third time I'm seeing it. And what I would say is that this will continue. I think I don't want to be bad. This has been a very positive conversation, but I think next 2 months would be very tough, and there would be more layoffs. There would be more news like this when the rationalization and correction happens, because we all have to accept that the kind of money, the kind of valuation, the kind of expectations, the kind of returns expectation, all that happened was insane in the last 2 years. We were all celebrating, but it comes at a cost. And this is not just an India phenomena. This is happening in US. This is happening across the world. So yeah, we are also part of this. The inflation is high. the spends are going to be a little curtailed, but it gets okay. The only thing I can tell is that देखा है, होगा अगले 3 महीने या 6 महीने 9 महीने, I don't know, but this will continue. But then it will get okay. It will get corrected, and people who are laid off shouldn't even worry, because if you're good, if you have merit, there's a lot of opportunities, and you'll find a good home, a good place, or maybe just start up.
And we will all come out stronger from something like this at the end.
Absolutely.
I think that's
Absolutely.
That's the spirit, And to end with this, it's been such a lovely conversation. As I said, we could keep going on. If you have to say, I have a dream for India, right? And I'm trying to put you into a poetic spot or whatever, but you want to share your dream for India, like, Jawaharlal Nehru shared his dream.
I have a dream for India where every girl, every woman has a voice. And she's not scared. She's not scared to walk at night. She's not scared to express herself. She's not scared or apologetic about anything. She's cherished, she's loved, and she feels that this is equally and strongly my country as a man's or as anyone else's. Yeah. And I'm seeing that India come true, and we all have to participate in making that dream come true.
And the best part is, Shradha, you are the reality of your own dream. What better example than that, right? Such a lovely conversation. We, as I said, go on, but it's been exciting and engaging, and I really want us to see how we can create more stories, around this positivity for what India can become. I think a golden period has started, the Amrit Kal, and we're going to just see a stronger and more vibrant India from here on. And we'll all work together to see how to make that happen. So again, thanks a lot for your time, and thanks for sharing such a inspiring and insightful, anecdotes and conversations on this subject of our road to India. Thanks.
Thank you, Rajan. You are always very inspiring. I really love talking to you. You have such a good energy about you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
The admiration is mutual. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.